Welcome to the DNA Advantage podcast, where you can learn facts about your DNA that can help you live a healthier, longer life, doing all the activities you dream of doing. If you want to gain more control over your health and the factors that influence it, you're in the right place. Hi, this is Lisa Witherow. Today I'm going to highlight some of the basic connections between nutrition and our DNA. Nutrition is one of the greatest points of leverage that we have over our health. We are able to influence our health and the function of our body by eating different foods and different combinations of foods. Nutrition helps us produce energy, build new cells, and of course the DNA replication process cannot happen without nutrition. And we use certain cofactors to allow expression of DNA. So the cofactors help to support the production of enzymes, which then help to support our organs and the function of our body. We're all familiar with the standard nutritional guidelines too. We've got the pyramid, which then turned into the plate, which gives us basic guidelines of the percentage of foods that we should be eating and the nutrients that we need to get in what percentage or daily recommended allowance that we should have. The one thing that it doesn't identify, even though it has the best of intentions in identifying a general guideline, is it does not consider our unique needs. So what is our ability to process those nutrients? And what do our genes need to function? What kinds of nutrients do our genes need in combination, especially if we have weaknesses? If we have weaknesses, we need to compensate for the lower functioning genes with certain cofactors and supportive nutrition. Without knowing our DNA and taking into consideration what our symptoms and performance levels are in our bodies, we don't know what our bodies need specifically. Another thing that we really need to consider are additives and artificial ingredients can be unrecognizable to the body and can block some of the nutrients. Also, we need cofactors. Sometimes if we are deficient in one specific nutrient, our body won't be able to absorb other nutrients. We can learn our capabilities to better understand what will help us achieve our nutritional goals by looking at our DNA and understanding how our bodies function and where we might be needing some compensation. So, if we break things down into different categories, we can look at things like protein, carbs, and fat, and we can look at specific genes for each of those categories to understand how well our bodies absorb or convert those nutrients to be utilized in the body. Protein is one that I'll list 3 genes that we need to look at. There's CPS1, CBS, and BHMT. Those are all genes that help our bodies process protein and allow us to absorb the benefits of protein. For carbs, we have FADS1, PPARG, and ADCY5. Now, keep in mind, for these, some of them cross over and have benefits to other nutrients. And again, we look at, it's not just one gene that we say, oh, we're compromised in one particular gene, therefore we have a problem. We can look at the complement of genes, and if we have one gene in a category that's compromised and there are 25 genes that are involved in that process and we don't have any symptoms, then very likely we don't need to do anything. But we need to recognize the big picture and be able to understand when we are having a symptom or we have a health history in our family or personally, we need to be aware of the connections of these genes and how nutrients can make a difference. So we'll move on to fat, which the specific genes that I'll cover here: FADS, ADIPOQ, and APOA2. Now, those are genes, if you think about them, processing fat is certainly important. We don't want to have poor fat absorption because fat is very necessary for the brain function. We want to make sure that we aren't just adding on to our bodies and increasing the body mass index without processing the actual fat. But we also want to make sure, if we have any kind of family history of brain function, any kind of cognitive issues or dementia, we definitely want to look at the nutritional implications and make sure that we don't have genes that we need to support through nutrition, and make sure that we have everything that we need on a regular basis. Because with dementia, what we do in our 30s makes a huge difference. What we eat in our 30s and 40s makes a huge difference for how we manifest things like dementia in our later years. We can look at genes related to key nutrients also, often linked to symptoms. Things like vitamin D. We can look at VDR, which is the vitamin D receptor genes. We can look at folate. We have MTRR, CBS, and MTHFR, which again, these are just a subset of the bigger picture, but I don't want to overwhelm. And then we also have B12, which will look at MTR, FUT2, and TCN2. And then choline, we can look at PEMT. We can determine how well our bodies respond to specific substances like caffeine, alcohol, salt, sugar, and we can look at how our body processes byproducts of foods like histamine and oxalates. So it's really important to understand, if we're symptomatic and we're having headaches, it could be that we have a problem with a detoxification issue, which we'll address in another podcast, or we could have a histamine issue. When histamine levels elevate, it can cause headaches, and it can cause skin reactions and sleep issues and various other symptoms. So we need to be aware, if those are the hints that we're getting from our body that we are having a problem, and then we can line that up against our genes to understand better what the real cause is. And if we can address the underlying cause and not just cover up the symptom, then we are actually making strides toward better health. But if we're just overcoming the symptoms by covering them up with ibuprofen or some sort of medication, we don't really know what the cause is. We don't really solve the problem, and it will either continue as the symptom that is aggravating us, or it can manifest as another symptom. The other thing, understanding our DNA connected to nutrition, it will help us identify the specific diet that will be most beneficial. So you can look at your DNA and understand if a vegetarian or vegan diet is good for you, if meat consumption is something that is really important for your body, or if a ketogenic diet is something that will benefit or be detrimental to you. So you can review your DNA to learn how your body responds to nutrition and which nutrients you're most dependent on. It just takes some time to make the connections. And that's the goal, is to really give the time and really assess what it's going to take for your body to be functioning optimally. So if these are things that really interest you and you'd like to learn more, please join me on my Facebook page at the DNA Advantage, and certainly subscribe to the podcast if you're finding these podcasts interesting. And if you'd like to join me in the program, I have a 30-day program that's going to be launching soon, and I will have that information on the Facebook page. Until next time, take good care of your DNA.